I'll keep you company. I'm not sleepy. He changed his tune. Let's talk about Si Ting Yuan. Seeing his insistence, Yun didn't press the issue, and the topic returned to Si Tingji. Let's hear your thoughts. Yuan Zhou was thoughtful. The meeting between Si Ting Yuan and the young lady of the Yu family can't be kept secret. The entire business world will know soon. Regardless of how the rumors spread, Si Tingji, who is bent on seizing power, will definitely pay attention. After all, if the Yu family reaches an understanding with the Si family, the goal would be continued cooperation. Once a partnership is formed, it would be a major accomplishment for Si Ting Yuan in front of the shareholders. Once the product is released, it's as good as him having submitted his results. Si Tingji won't be the one to take the hit. His relationship with Si Ting Yuan has always been tense. He's bound to interfere. Yun pondered for a while before asking him, I don't know the Si family situation as well as you and Dad do. Si Tingji is just their adopted son. Can he really stir up trouble? Do the Si family shareholders acknowledge him? Even someone skilled at social maneuvering needs people to give them face. Now that the Si family elders have withdrawn from the battlefield, the old guard might not necessarily accept a new leader, especially one who isn't entirely legitimate, not when the eldest son is still around. Yuan Zhou was knowledgeable about this point. The Si family started using professional managers a long time ago. They're quite progressive in how much control they delegate for projects. In other words, positions go to the most capable, regardless of their background. Yun understood. This further confirmed her thoughts. Si Tingji would 100% take the initiative. At the very least, he wouldn't let Si Ting Yuan gain the upper hand regarding the Yu family. He'll come looking for you. Most likely, she predicted. Reason? Yuan Zhou asked. Yun placed her milk glass on the coffee table. He'll believe the rumors. He'll think my meeting with Si Ting Yuan was just some petty female trick and that nothing substantial came of it. But the fact that I took the initiative to seek out Si Ting Yuan shows that the Yu family is interested in continuing the partnership, which gives him an opening. You're the one in charge of the Yu family now. If Si Tingji is a man who puts profit above all else, he won't waste a single second, and he will definitely seek out the person who can actually make decisions. Yu Zhuanzhou's view was diametrically opposed to hers, which made Yun quite curious. Tell me, Yuan Zhou said softly, not everyone will misunderstand you and Si Ting Yuan. Those closer to the parties involved will analyze your meeting more rationally. On the surface, Si Tingji seems a step below Si Ting Yuan, and his power would also be somewhat weaker. But a person with strong social skills also possesses keen insight. Moreover, having grown up with Si Ting Yuan, he knows Si Ting Yuan's temperament better than outsiders. So, do you think he'd consider Si Ting Yuan a lecher? Yun was silent, thoughtfulness in her eyes. Your meeting with Si Ting Yuan wasn't over in a word or two. Chatting for so long means you must have hit on something crucial, or perhaps a topic Si Ting Yuan finds most interesting. Therefore, Si Tingji will definitely pay attention. Yuan Zhou analyzed it for her point by point. The Yu family's young lady personally sought out the Si family's young master, and they talked about topics the Si young master was interested in. What else could it be? Si Tingji won't think you're a mere flower vase. He'll actively approach you to extract valuable information, and it's even very possible he might intercept you before Si Ting Yuan makes a decision. The long-standing overseas channels. Si Ting Yuan wants them, but Si Tingji wants them even more. Therefore, he emphasized heavily, if Si Tingji comes to you, don't respond. If you avoid him, he'll naturally come to me. Yun looked at him. Since you don't think he'll see me as a flower vase, what are you worried about? Are you afraid I'll mess up and ruin the Yu family's reputation? Or are you afraid he'll make a move on me because of my looks? Yuan Zhou saw the smile in her eyes and sighed. I'm being serious with you. It's not about anything else. I'm mainly afraid you'll suffer injustice or losses. Besides, I'm the male heir of the Yu family. It's my place to handle public-facing matters. At this, his voice grew somber, a hint of bitterness entering his tone. About my previous investigation, I already feel very sorry towards you. Yun's expression softened. She looked at him for a long time before asking, Are you finished? Yuan Zhou looked up at her. Zhou, I'll only say this once. We are family. There's no such thing as owing each other among family members, and you don't need to dwell on past events. Zhang Xianwen is temperamental. Who in the entire capital circle doesn't know he's an unscrupulous hothead? There are many low-key and reserved young masters in the capital circle, but do you think Zhang Xianwen would associate with them? He surrounds himself with people who flatter and pamper him, so he can't tolerate even the slightest grievance. If you offend him, retaliation is bound to happen. If one intends to condemn, one can always find an excuse. She sighed softly, but Zhang Xianwen is straightforward in his dealings. If he wants to target you, he targets you directly, without stabbing you in the back. In that respect, he's more upright than many people in the business world. Yuan Zhou looked at her helplessly. You're even defending him now. If it weren't for him, you wouldn't. See? You're dwelling on it again, Yun Yin gently interrupted him. Whether it's Zhang Xianwen or Jiang Yinyin, if they intend to make trouble, they'll find a reason, regardless of whether we've done right or wrong. Going back to Si Tinji, if he comes to me, I'll handle it calmly. As you said, he's driven by self-interest, so being blinded by lust is unlikely for someone like him. If he makes a move on me because of my looks, there's only one reason. I possess resources he wants to acquire or utilize. But do you think I'm so clueless? Yun Yin softly countered, adding, if Si Tinji approaches me in a conventional manner, I can only represent the Yu family to discuss general prospects with him. As for specific matters, I doubt he'd talk to me. I actually think if Si Tinji comes to me, it's likely meant for Si Ting Yuan's eyes. Yuanzhou agreed. The business world is like a battlefield, with self-interest paramount. Even fathers and sons can turn against each other, let alone mere nominal brothers. It's not impossible for Si Tinji to use the Yu family's sincerity to intimidate Si Ting Yuan. However, Yun Yin changed tack. If he comes to me, it's not a bad thing. He wants to use me to provoke Si Ting Yuan's reaction, and it goes both ways. I also want to see what Si Ting Yuan will do next. You mean you want to make a big show of this? Yuanzhou asked with a half-smile. Yun Yin nodded. If others intend to use you, why not turn the tables on them? Yun Yin woke up again. It was nearly noon. She had woken up past midnight and chatted with Yuanzhou until the sky was just beginning to lighten. Luckily, she kept the conversation strictly business. Otherwise, given Yuanzhou's personality, he would most likely have brought up the Jiang family again. Jiang Zhe had sent her a message yesterday, or rather, early this morning. It was a voice message, asking her, Yin Yin, are you really not going to give me a chance? His voice was slurred, clearly having drunk a lot. Yun Yin had wanted to go back to bed then, and had turned off her phone to avoid being disturbed. The sun was bright today. Even with the curtains drawn, she could feel the brilliance of the light outside. Yuanzhou had gone out, and a note lay quietly on the large dining table. The prepared food is in the insulated boxes. Yun Yin opened the insulated boxes one by one. Indeed, did he think she could eat that much? After turning on her phone, several messages popped up. There were also 2 missed calls, both from unknown numbers. Yun Yin didn't rush to call back. First, she checked if there were any messages from Jiang Yinyin. Her 2 recent sleeps hadn't been entirely dreamless. She had dreamed of Jiang Yinyin standing before her, covered in blood, telling her, don't be afraid, come with me. He had crouched down as he used to, his broad back to her, and murmured, come on, I'll carry you. She hesitated to approach. He said, this is someone else's blood, not mine. Even after she opened her eyes, Jiang Yinyin's words from the dream kept echoing in her ears. Yes, with Jiang Yinyin's current standing, he would only make others bleed. But she had indeed stabbed him firmly, and it would be a lie to say she wasn't anxious. Afraid he would target the Yu family or Yuanzhou. Although the Jiang family was part of the capital circle, they had transitioned to business since the generation of Old Master Jiang. So, for Jiang Yinyin, his capital circle identity was not a restriction. He could boldly and ruthlessly carve out his path against the Yu family in the business world, even crush them with a single foot. So, how could Yinyin not be worried? Moreover, she never considered Jiang Yinyin a magnanimous person. More importantly, what exactly happened in the past that caused him and the Yu family to become estranged? Did it involve a child? This matter was deeply buried. Jiang Yinyin hadn't sent any messages. 2 possibilities. Point 1, his injuries were too severe, he was in the ICU, and hadn't woken up yet. The other, he was simply indisposed. Regardless, Yun Yin couldn't pretend ignorance. She had to inquire. Yun Yin sat at the dining table, deliberating for a long time, eventually summoning the courage to dial Jiang Yinyin's phone. The moment the call connected, Yun Yin's heart leaped again. She instinctively felt dizzy and her back broke into a sweat, her temples throbbing. The other end picked up. Yun Yin heard her heart thump, but then secretly let out a long sigh of relief after hearing the voice on the other end. Miss you? It was old Lu's voice. For Jiang Yinyin's phone to be with old Lu, it seemed Jiang Yinyin's situation wasn't too good. As this thought emerged, Yun Yin felt half a brain ache. Please, don't let anything serious happen. Old Lu said, I called you this morning, miss you, but your phone was off. Yun Yin put on speaker, then checked her call history and recited a phone number, asking, was that yours? Old Lu confirmed it was. Yun Yin had her answer and inquired about Jiang Yinyin's condition. Nothing too serious. Young Master Yin just lost a bit too much blood and is still asleep. I only called to let you know. Miss you, old Lu said. We've already brought young Master Yin back to the city to recuperate. Yun Yin softly said, that's good, as long as he's all right, but thought to herself, actually, you didn't need to report his safety to me. But she quickly realized Old Lu said, the old madam found out about young Master Yan's injury and is at the hospital now. Yunyan's heart tightened. Grandma Jiang, the old madam doesn't know the full truth. Young master, Yin woke up once before transferring hospitals and gave some instructions before falling back asleep. Yunyan took a long moment before asking, what did he instruct? He told me to come up with an excuse for his injury. Also, he wanted me to tell you that no matter who asks about young Master Yan's injuries afterward, you're to say you know nothing, haven't seen him, aren't clear, and don't know. Old Lu paused here, then added, I hope, miss, you can also inform your friend. He was referring to Xiao Min. Yunyan softly said, don't worry, she's not one to gossip. She knows what's important. Old Lu hummed in affirmation. Miss Yu's friend is indeed trustworthy. How is Grandma John's health? Is she? Yunyan was afraid she might be too sad and worried, affecting her health. Old Lu said, don't worry, Miss Yu. Miss Mola is also at the hospital with her. The old madam will be fine with Miss Mola's care. Yunyan paused slightly, then said, that's good then. After the call ended, she pondered for a long time. It seemed Mola was fully committed to the Jiang family. This incident, on the contrary, provided Mola with an opportunity to be by Jiang Yunyan's and old Madame Jiang's side as the future youngest daughter-in-law of the Jiang family. In this way, it would likely be the eldest son Jiang Yintai's faction, including Jiang Zhe, who would need to proactively plan. Yunyan sighed deeply. All she could wish for now was a suitable young lady to appear for Jiang Zhe, diverting the attention of the Jiang family's eldest branch, so she could finally escape this predicament. Among the messages were Xiao Min's. She had sent 3 voice messages. The first, darling, I've got things connected. No need to thank me. The second, I don't care when Angel's Wings comes out. I want the first-hand info. The third, what's going on? Not up yet. You're something else. Your brother's already building an empire, and you're still leveling up by fighting monsters in your dreams, aren't you? Yunyan listened to the voice messages while eating, and after hearing them all, replied. All right, got it. For Angel's Wings to be successfully launched, it'll largely depend on your help and promotion. Soon, Xiao Min called back, getting straight to the point. I heard from Wanzhou that you chatted with him for quite a while last night. Nian, what's with you? Are you really going to fiercely contend with men? Specifically, after midnight today, Yunyan emphasized. Besides, what do you mean contend with men? I just want to contribute. The Yu family is such a mess. Zhou can't handle it all by himself, can he? If we just live off past savings, the Yu family's foundation is thin. And you know my mother's condition. I know, Xiao Min said softly. It's not that I'm against it, it's just... She hesitated, seemingly reluctant to speak further. Yunyan knew immediately that she had concerns. Go on, what can't you say to me? Once you enter the business world, you'll encounter all sorts of people. Before, you only dealt with people of your own class and still suffered grievances and slander. In the future, for projects and profits, there will be times when you'll have to swallow your pride. You're so beautiful. There will be more people trying to take advantage of you, and their methods might be even worse. Yunyan chuckled. You know, Zhou wanted to say the same thing when he was talking to me, but he held back. He was protecting you. Yunyan sighed. I know, but people have to do things to live, right? I've grown up carefree under my parents' protection. Although I encountered unpleasant things when I was little, I always got through them without serious harm. Now that something has happened to the Yu family, I can't just be a hands-off boss, can I? Xiao Min hummed. As for you, I absolutely believe you have the capability. You just lack experience. In any case, be careful on the road ahead. And if all else fails, you still have me and Wanzhou. Don't keep everything bottled up. Discuss things with us. Yunyan was deeply touched. Her throat felt a little tight when she agreed. Xiao Min cautiously asked about Jiang Yunyan's situation. Yunyan relayed old Lu's words to her, and after hearing them, Xiao Min said, Mola is basically announcing it to the outside world now. How could Yunyan not understand? This is good, too. Hey, let me ask you one more time. Xiao Min's tone was quite serious. Are you sure you haven't developed feelings for Jiang Yunyan? Xiao Min. Yunyan sighed. Am I a masochist? He threw me into Feng Yao. She felt it necessary to emphasize this point. What if the Feng Yao incident hadn't happened? How many what-ifs are there, big sis? Yunyan said helplessly. He treated me like that purely out of hatred for the Yu family. I'm not brain damaged. Xiao Min pondered for a moment, then suddenly said, You think he hates you? But let me ask you, why would he hide the fact that you stabbed him from the outside world? So you think he's developed feelings for me, do you? Yunyan chuckled lightly. What good would it do him to tell the truth to the outside world? In his eyes, I'm just an ant. It would be easy for him to crush me. Why would he need to use someone else's hand? To put it plainly, he's not tired of this game yet. How could he let me die so easily? If I were truly imprisoned because of this, then he wouldn't be able to torment me later. She gently twirled her water glass. Even if taking a step back, he did develop feelings for me. Does that mean I have to develop feelings for him? All right, as long as you stay grounded and rational. I'm just asking because I'm afraid you might really get swept up in romance. Women's triggers for emotional attachment can be hard to predict sometimes, and I'm worried you might one day lose your clear judgment. A man coveted by Mola. You should keep your distance from him. Xiao Min knew her well. Hearing this, she heaved a heavy sigh. Yunyan couldn't help but laugh at her sigh. She asked what was wrong. Didn't she believe her or what? Xiao Min said, once you make up your mind about something, 10 bulls couldn't drag you back. I also know you're competitive in everything you do, but romantic relationships can't be judged by reason. You can be so decisive now only because you've never truly fallen in love or been in a relationship. Yunyan thought for a moment. It's not that I've never liked anyone. I did have that senior from my school days on my mind. Xiao Min was speechless. See, this is the tragedy of a relationship novice. Your feelings for that senior were, at best, admiration. It doesn't even count as a secret crush. Who doesn't swoon over a senior in their school days? That little bud of emotion you had is a completely different thing from what I'm talking about. All right, Yunyan didn't argue. So, Xiaomin got back to the point, asking bluntly, Zhang Yunyan was your first man, wasn't he? Yunyan was drinking milk and nearly choked. It took her a long while to compose herself, but she still couldn't bring herself to say yes. Yet, such hesitation had already revealed the answer. Xiaomin was no fool. She said, a woman will always have a soft spot for the first man who possesses her. Even if this person becomes insignificant in your future, he will never disappear from your heart. What era is this? Why are you still so futile? This has nothing to do with the era or being futile. I'm not saying you have to devote your life to him. You're perfectly capable of walking away coolly even after something like this has happened, but whether you can completely pluck this person out of your heart is another matter entirely. Yunyan inadvertently thought of Jiang Yinyan's face and the carnal pleasure they had once shared. Her heart began to pound erratically, and the fingers holding her utensils trembled slightly. She suppressed this strange emotion and said to Xiao Min, you worry too much. Really, don't worry. I have a clear head about this. After the call with Xiao Min ended, Yunyan completely lost her appetite. She felt a persistent sense of unease. Xiao Min wasn't entirely right. She realized that the first thing that came to her mind wasn't Jiang Yinyan, but the sweaty, taut muscles, the scent of male hormones filled with desire, the strong arms, the man's sexy, low gasps, and the force that made her lose control. That's normal, isn't it? To be unable to stop reminiscing about the pleasure rather than the man himself. Yunyan's breathing quickened. She hastily cleared her mind, only then realizing her face was burning hot. So much so that when she answered the call from Si Tingyuan, her voice was unnatural. Si Tingyuan, not knowing the situation, asked her, are you walking, miss you? You sound out of breath. Yunyan quickly said no. She had just woken up not long ago and had a headache from sleeping. Si Tingyuan chuckled softly. No wonder I couldn't get through to you. Do you have a habit of turning off your phone when you rest? Yunyan said, only then remembering the 2 missed calls from unknown numbers. Not knowing how to answer, she could only let out another The second sounded more like an answer. Si Tingyuan took it as such and said, I'm very sorry. I'll be more careful next time. Yunyan was taken aback and hurried to say, Mr. C, you didn't disturb me at all. You don't have to apologize. As a representative of the Shanghai Circle, Si Tingyuan possessed a vintage and gentle temperament, which was different from the calm and reserved nature of most in the Beijing Circle. In fact, Yunyan had a good impression of him. It stemmed from the fact that although he was emotionally distant, there was rarely any negative news about him, and he was remarkably self-disciplined. People like him were often best not to offend. She asked if Si Tingyuan needed something. Unexpectedly, Si Tingyuan asked her, does miss you have time later? After ending the call, Yunyan frowned in thought. Things were developing in an unexpected direction. She had never imagined that Si Tingyuan would extend an invitation before Si Tinji. It was impossible that he was agreeing to the collaboration so quickly, or that he wanted to discuss it further. Even if they were to talk about cooperation, Si Tingyuan wouldn't be foolish enough to discuss the details with her. He would certainly go to Yuanzhou, and it couldn't be as absurd as him wanting to chat, reminisce, and talk about feelings with her. How could there be so much love at first sight after only a single meeting? Yunyan's hand rested on the table, her slender white index finger tapping rhythmically. She furrowed her brow in thought. Suddenly, the tapping stopped, and her frown deepened. Perhaps she might have figured it out. She turned and sent a message to Yuanzhou. We need to do one more thing. Si Tingyuan had chosen a rather clever time, slightly later than a pure afternoon tea, yet slightly earlier than a formal dinner. This way, they could have some simple afternoon tea, still have room for dinner, and the time for conversation would be just right. It was clear he was a veteran of social engagements, precise in his grasp of timing. Although the Si and Yu families had business dealings in the past, this was only the second time Si Tingyuan and Yunyan had met. If they were to drag out afternoon tea and find they had nothing to say to each other, there would certainly be nothing to talk about during dinner either. Just right, yet leaving one wanting more. This was the key to maintaining a back-and-forth dynamic. Si Tingyuan chose the restaurant at the highest point of Financial Street. It was members only, and some of its rare, air-freighted ingredients had to be reserved in advance. Those who could secure a table were the restaurant's top gourmands. This height allowed one to look down upon the prosperity of the capital. From the scenic window seat, one could take in the neon lights of more than half of North City. Although it wasn't evening rush hour yet, the traffic on Financial Street had already become a red ocean. The city's nights were more brilliant than its days. The lights and neon glow could illuminate the entire night sky, making the darkness no longer quiet. This was just the beginning of the night. I didn't expect Mr. C to be a regular here, Yunyan said softly. Tonight, Si Tingyuan was still dressed in business attire, but as night fell, he had relaxed somewhat. He wore no tie, his cufflinks were undone, and the sleeves, rolled up at the cuffs, revealed strong, sexy forearms with knotted blue veins. Compared to at the banquet, he seemed less distant. Si Tingyuan said, "The main branch of this restaurant is in Shanghai." Yunyan understood. Sometimes the same restaurant can have different flavors in different cities, Yunyan said softly. Si Tingyuan glanced at her and smiled slightly. "Try the tea snacks first. There's a fish banquet for dinner. We happen to catch it, which is quite lucky." As the restaurant was in North City, the tea snacks incorporated local tea culture. Setting aside the taste, the very stands on which the snacks were displayed were extremely imperial in style, and the patterns on the pastries were exquisitely crafted. At a glance, one might truly mistake the snacks for items brought straight from the palace. In this ancient capital, every tea snack had its own story. Yunyan said, "The consequence of stories being too good is that one is reluctant to eat the snacks." Si Tingyuan laughed and placed a pastry on the plate in front of her. "Go on, eat. Once the story is in your stomach, it becomes your own." Yunyan thanked him. Just as she was about to get to the point, she heard Si Tingyuan ask, "Has Jiang Yunyan given you any trouble, miss you?" Yunyan's hand, holding the fork, stiffened slightly, but she quickly composed herself and looked up at Si Tingyuan. The annulment of the engagement between the Jiang and Yu families was based on reality. The Yu family can accept it, and the Jiang family can understand. Therefore, young master, Yin has no reason to give me trouble. This kind of answer was a masterful deflection. Sure enough, Si Tingyuan smiled, but his eyes were deep and shrewd. "Miss Yu is very clever. You know how to answer in a way that avoids the fundamental issue. The fundamental issue is that Jiang Zhe was once my fiancé, and young master Yin is Jiang Zhe's uncle. Now that I have no connection to Jiang Zhe, as his uncle, he can't force an unwilling person, can he?" Si Tingyuan looked at her for a long time, then nodded slightly. "He can't. Mr. C, why did you ask to see me today?" Yunyan didn't want to continue discussing Jiang Yinyan. "Can it be just to catch up?" Si Tingyuan asked. Yunyan was neither servile nor overbearing. "If it's to catch up, how would Mr. C like to do so?" The so-called catching up is about reminiscing over the past. You and I are mere acquaintances. We have no past and not many shared topics. This catching up would be quite difficult. Si Tingyuan hadn't expected her to say this. He was stunned for a moment, and when he spoke again, his tone was much more teasing. "Miss you, aren't you afraid of offending people by speaking like this?" "I'm speaking the truth. Or perhaps Mr. C prefers to hear insincere words or things with ulterior motives." Yunyan said softly, "I imagine there's no shortage of such people around you, Mr. C. You must be tired of hearing it." A faint smile played on Si Tingyuan's lips. He didn't answer her question, but in reality, there were indeed many such people around him, their words completely opposite to their thoughts. But she was the first to so directly call out his excuse. She was just a very, very clear-headed girl. "Is my reason that flimsy?" Si Tingyuan was quite curious. Yunyan put down her pastry. "Mr. C's time is precious. You're not someone who would casually catch up with just anyone, are you?" Si Tingyuan chuckled softly and said nothing. After a moment, "Then let's get down to business." Yunyan set down her fork and looked at Si Tingyuan. Seeing this, he smiled again and gestured to her. "Let's talk while we eat." "Let's be more formal when discussing business," Yunyan said. It sounded a bit awkward, but Si Tingyuan understood. He lowered his eyes and smiled faintly. "It's not anything too serious. I invited Miss Yu today, mainly to understand the situation with Jiang Cheng. I heard that Jiang Cheng had actually already resigned at the beginning of the year, but the Yu family never announced it publicly. Jiang Cheng was a heavyweight jewelry designer under the Yu family. He was brilliant, with the ability to turn worthless stones into priceless treasures. The team he led had an illustrious record and was highly regarded internationally. And the team Yunyan had mentioned before was indeed Jiang Cheng and his subordinates. She hadn't exaggerated. Most of the people on Jiang Cheng's team had international backgrounds, and many had intricate connections with royal families. Yunyan pondered for a moment. Yes, the Jiangcheng team did consider leaving at one point due to the Yu family's precarious situation. But Jiangcheng was personally scouted by my father. To Jiangcheng, my father was his benefactor. He also provided a great platform for Jiangcheng and his team members. Jiangcheng is a grateful person, so he didn't resign, nor did he plan to leave the Yu family. Si Tingyuan studied her, as if trying to determine the truthfulness of her words. Didn't the Si family also try to poach Jiangcheng once? If he and his entire team had resigned, why didn't they accept the olive branch you extended, Mr. Si? Yunyan asked with a smile. Si Tingyuan said, I've met with Jiangcheng before. In my opinion, he intends to go independent with his team. So if Jiangcheng leaves, I highly doubt the Yu family's ability to handle the project. In that case, I might as well work with Jiangcheng directly as a client. I'm absolutely certain you've discussed this kind of cooperation with Jiangcheng, Mr. Si, and the result wasn't to your satisfaction, was it? Yunyan said, hitting the nail on the head. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here talking to me about Jiangcheng's situation today. Si Tingyuan raised an eyebrow slightly at her. The Jiangcheng team will not go independent, at least not at this stage, Yunyan said crisply. Si Tingyuan waited for her to continue. As I just said, my father was Jiangcheng's benefactor. Jiangcheng's current achievements are inseparable from my father's support back then. The Yu family opened up channels in many countries for Jiangcheng, allowing the value of his designs to reach unprecedented heights. Yunyan spoke unhurriedly. Mr. Si also said before that although the Yu family's tower has collapsed, its reputation remains. In the international market, especially among royalty and crown princes, anyone who knows the Yu family knows Jiangcheng. If Jiangcheng were to leave the Yu family at this time, he would truly be branded as ungrateful. Although this might be considered a form of moral blackmail, that's how those royals and crown princes would see it. Jewelry is different from other things. In their view, a designer with flawed character cannot create good works. Si Tingyuan remained silent. Since Mr. Si is so concerned about the Jiangcheng team, you must have investigated these matters long ago. Si Tingyuan didn't eat sweets. He poured some black tea, taking a thoughtful sip. It was true that he had investigated, but he didn't know the specific situation of Jiangcheng and his team. He had indeed met with Jiangcheng before, but while Jiangcheng was a designer, he was also the leader of a team. As such, he was very skilled at managing his distance in interactions and conversations. He hadn't managed to get any valuable information out of Jiangcheng, but the information from his own private investigation couldn't be wrong. All right, he said after a long pause. Words are no proof. Since the Jiangcheng team is still here, what I need to see is the Yu family's guarantee. Yunyan glanced at her phone. When she saw the message had arrived with 2 words, handled, she smiled, looked up at Si Tingyuan, and asked, how about a contract? Si Tingyuan raised his eyebrows slightly. A contract? Yunyan nodded. Just as we happened to catch the fish banquet today, you've also caught the renewal of the contract between the Jiangcheng team and the Yu family, Mr. Si. Coincidentally, it was today. She pulled up the photo of the contract on her phone. It had been sent to her by Yu Wanzhou 5 minutes earlier, along with a group photo from the signing. Si Tingyuan glanced at the contract, the names of Party A and Party B, the renewal term, and the signatures and seals of both parties. And the group photo. In the photo were Yu Wanzhou and Jiangcheng, along with every single member of Jiangcheng's team. Not one was missing. The contract was laid out plainly, with zero possibility of being a fake. Si Tingyuan said pointedly, Miss Yu, I'm not a big believer in coincidences. Jiangcheng expressed his intention to renew long ago. It was just scheduled for today's signing. So, Mr. Si, this really is a coincidence, Yunyan explained softly. Si Tingyuan looked at Yunyan for a long time, then suddenly smiled. Miss Yu, regardless, the Yu family's attitude and efficiency in handling emergencies are quite satisfactory. Yunyan knew she couldn't hide it from Si Tingyuan. A man in his position was bound to have sharp eyes and a keen mind. The desired result had been achieved, and Yunyan wasn't foolish enough to explain or deny anything. She simply gave a faint smile. I accept your praise, Mr. Si. She didn't press Si Tingyuan for a decision, nor did she boast about the Yu family's future plans. First, she ate quietly, then gradually steered the conversation back to the jewelry industry. The Yu and Si families had business dealings, and the relationship between their fathers was decent. While Yunyan wasn't exactly reminiscing about past hardships, she brought the topic around to the jewelry they had collaborated on in the past, how the Yu family had enhanced the value of certain pieces, the untold stories behind the designs, and so on. Si Tingyuan listened with repeated surprise. He couldn't help but ask, Miss Yu, you're not involved with your jewelry team? Yunyan chuckled lightly. I may not have a proper job, but I'm a Yu after all. A few interesting things are bound to reach my ears. If it weren't for their last 2 encounters, Si Tingyuan would have believed her. Women, no matter their position, tended to enjoy a bit of gossip. But Yunyan was different. She only used the pretense of hearing gossip to poke fun at herself. In reality, she was very well informed about the Yu family situation. The meal lasted over 3 hours. Contrary to the rumors, Si Tingyuan was quite the conversationalist. At first, Yunyan had worried they would fall into an awkward silence after discussing business, but Si Tingyuan was skilled at guiding the conversation, and they ended up getting along quite harmoniously. Si Tingyuan drove Yunyan home, a gesture of gentlemanly courtesy. At the entrance to her residential complex, they unexpectedly ran into Yu Zhuanzhou's car. Seeing this, Yunyan made the introductions. Si Tingyuan and Yu Wanzhou both got out of their cars, shook hands, and exchanged pleasantries. Si Tingyuan looked at Yu Wanzhou, his tone meaningful. Although the Yu family is in a predicament, it's clear that Mr. Yu has surpassed his predecessor. Relocating an industry is a major undertaking. A slight misstep could lead to complete failure. You are quite bold, Mr. Yu. Yu Wanzhou was composed, neither servile nor overbearing. He smiled. Whether the Yu family can recover quickly depends on the trust of our old partners. If everyone trusts us and gives us some face, then we'll be able to catch our breath. Si Tingyuan smiled without saying a word. They were both sharp cookies. Before getting back in his car, Si Tingyuan said to Yunyan, "I had a very pleasant chat with you today, Miss Yu. We'll have more opportunities in the future." After Si Tingyuan's car drove off, Yu Wanzhou gently took Yunyan's arm. "Let's go home. The temperature has dropped these past 2 days. Don't catch a cold from staying out too long." Xiaomin had a business banquet that evening and couldn't make it. When Yunyan had laid out the late-night snacks on the table and Yu Wanzhou sent a 9-photo grid of it to Xiaomin, the voice message she sent back was filled with gritted teeth. "You two are too much. You know I can't eat properly at these banquets, and you're deliberately provoking me? Yunyan, you just got home from dinner with Mr. C. You can still eat more." Yunyan used Yu Zhuanzhou's phone to send a voice message back. "I absolutely can. You know me, the body of a princess, but the stomach of a servant girl. If I weren't like this, I wouldn't have been able to hang out with you for so many years." Yunyan and Xiaomin had initially been classmates, briefly, in elementary school, and not even in the same class. Xiaomin's family was well off, but compared to the Yu family, they were in a different social stratum. Logically, the two wouldn't have become friends even if they had been in the same class. That was until the day Xiaomin discovered Yunyan sneaking off to eat fried stinky tofu. The two instantly had something in common. Xiaomin also loved the stinky tofu from that particular stall, so they would often sneak away from the adults to eat it together. Xiaomin knew of Yunyan, really, who in their grade didn't know of her. The high and mighty heiress, the center of attention wherever she went. But Xiaomin had never expected Yunyan to be such a foodie, especially for street food. Xiaomin had asked curiously, "Do you have chef at home who can make lots of delicious food?" Yunyan nodded and said yes. Not only a chef, but also a pastry chef, whose creations were even more delicious than those sold outside. On top of that, there was a nutritionist who would constantly critique the soups the chef made. Curious, Xiaomin asked again, "So your chef doesn't know how to make fried stinky tofu?" "No, he says it's unhealthy." Any food the Yu family chef deemed unhealthy, Yunyan knew to go out and eat. Back then, Xiaomin didn't envy Yunyan's family circumstances. On the contrary, she felt a bit sorry for her. There were so many things she loved to eat that she couldn't have at home. So, she would often take Yunyan to eat at street stalls, and over time, the two became good friends. But the good times didn't last. Someone found out the location of Yunyan's school, and she was kidnapped. Although she was later rescued by the police, Yunyan was deeply traumatized. The Yu family had her take a leave of absence from school. Xiaomin didn't see her for a long time after that. The next time she did, it was because Yunyan had come to school to find her. Xiaomin found it strange that she had come out during class time. She had arrived by car, and a young man followed a short distance behind her. The sunlight was blinding, but the young man's face looked cold. Yunyan told her, "I'm leaving. Where are you going? Are you quitting school?" Yunyan said, "I'm still going, but my dad is transferring me to another school." Xiao later found out that Yunyan had transferred to an international school, which was very far from her own. Later still, Xiaomin's family moved to another city, and the two gradually lost touch. It wasn't until many years later, when they met at a banquet, that Xiaomin was surprised Yunyan recognized her at a glance. After all, they had been separated for so many years, and an adult's appearance can be quite different from when they were a child. In truth, Xiaomin had known it was Yunyan, who wouldn't recognize the daughter of Jiangnan's richest man. But she hadn't approached her. For one, she was just a rookie in the workplace at the time, only attending the banquet to tag along with a senior colleague. For another, even if she had gone up to her, Yunyan probably wouldn't have recognized her, and people might have mistaken it as an attempt to curry favor with the powerful. The fact that Yunyan recognized her and approached her first deeply moved Xiao Min. Yunyan had said, "All these years, I've always remembered the little girl who took me to eat street food, because since then, no such little girl had ever appeared behind her again. After that banquet, the bridge of friendship between Yunyin and Xiaomin was rebuilt. Although they still lived in different places, Xiaomin's profession was special. She traveled all over the country and even the world. And Yunyin, being an idle person, loved to follow Xiaomin on her travels. Later, Xiaomin quit her job as a journalist to work in fashion, and it was Yunyin who helped her pull the strings for her initial resources. Xiaomin always said that without Yunyin, there would be no Xiaomin of today. But Yunyin would always say she was being too modest. Pulling connections was one thing, but whether one could actually secure those connections depended on Xiaomin's real abilities. And in fact, Xiaomin did have real abilities, which was why she was able to achieve such an influential position in the fashion world. Yunyin showed off the table full of late-night snacks and asked Xiaomin what time she would be finished. If she didn't have to get up early the next day, she could come over for some food and drinks. Xiaomin sighed. I'm a miserable wage slave. I have to fly to Hangzhou for a meeting first thing tomorrow morning. I'm not so lucky. Then she asked Yuanzhou what happened with Jiang Cheng in the end. Yuanzhou said he signed. Sister Min, I owe you a meal. I'll treat you when you get back. Xiaomin called him melodramatic and said that if he wanted to thank someone, he should thank his sister. I was helping your sister, not you. After the call ended, Yunyin immediately went to get a bowl and chopsticks, her mouth watering. In reality, Yunyin was the one who wanted the late-night snack. Yuanzhou was mostly just an observer, taking only a few bites at most. When it came to food, Yuanzhou was much more like a typical child of the Yu family. He didn't eat anything too oily, spicy, or meaty, and maintained a standard daily dietary intake. His philosophy on food was simple. As long as his body received the standard amount of nutrients each day, that was enough. Yuanzhou stared at the crimson-red dishes on the table and felt a burning sensation in his stomach. He couldn't help but ask her, did Si Tingyuan take you to a restaurant just to drink tea? Yunyin took a bite of spicy bullfrog and waved her hand. We've been to that restaurant before. Each dish is just a few bites, and the flavors are so light. Every time I leave that place, I have to make a detour for a late-night snack. Yuanzhou sighed. You should thank your lucky stars that you're still young and have a fast metabolism. It'd be a miracle if you didn't get fat eating like this. You brat, you dare call your sister fat? Yuanzhou just smiled without saying a word. But despite his words, whenever Yunyin had a craving, he would be the first to go out and buy it for her. What she wanted wasn't some rare delicacy, but all things from street stalls, which was a hassle for Yuanzhou, who had to drive around town searching for them every time. Yunyin had once said, eating from street stalls has become one of my few acts of willfulness. It was true. Yunyin had never been a willful girl growing up, yet she had a particular fondness for things from small vendors and stalls, which often gave her stomach aches. As they ate, they started talking about Si Tingyuan. It's a good thing we were prepared, otherwise Si Tingyuan would have really caught us off guard today. Yunyin took a napkin and wiped her mouth. Yuanzhou pulled out another napkin. When Yunyin reached for it, he didn't let go, instead using it to gently wipe the side of her mouth. The main reason we were able to dispel Si Tingyuan's concerns is thanks to you. You anticipated his suspicions ahead of time. Honestly, I was just taking a risk. Luckily, our gamble paid off. At least now the Si family won't think the Yu family's team is unstable. Yuanzhou poured a glass of water and gently clinked it against her soda glass. Let's toast with water instead of wine. Bottoms up. Yunyin pursed her lips. Water instead of wine. Si Tingyuan's suspicion about the Yu family's team was not without reason. It was true that Jiang Cheng had previously submitted his resignation. At that time, the Yu's industrial chain had already begun to falter, and among their many businesses, the jewelry sector seemed peripheral. So, it was natural for Jiang Cheng to want to leave. If Jiang Cheng left, his entire team would likely follow. Yu Yiyuan was still alive then. He had personally met with Jiang Cheng, honestly explaining the Yu family situation. He told him, if you want to resign, you can. It's natural for people to seek better opportunities. But I have one request. If you do leave, please keep it confidential for now. The Yu family is in a precarious state, and we can't afford a fire in our own backyard. Jiang Cheng was grateful to Yu Yiyuan at the time. So although he had the thought of leaving, he couldn't bring himself to make a final decision. After Yu Yiyuan passed away, Jiang Cheng didn't resign, but he didn't work under Yuanzhou either. His loyalty was to Yu Yiyuan alone. As for the young master, Yuanzhou, while Jiang Cheng acknowledged his business acumen, it was incredibly difficult for him to believe that he could support the entire Yu family on his own. Before the jewelry exhibition began, word got out that Si Tingyuan would be coming to Bay City to attend. Around that time, the Yu family had discussed with Yuanzhou the matter of renewing Jiang Cheng's contract. It didn't go smoothly. Jiang Cheng was a stubborn man, impervious to persuasion. He wasn't in the jewelry industry for a hefty commission. He did it purely out of passion. To convince him, Simply talking about ideals and dreams was useless. What worked was showing him how his creations could go further. And that was the platform Yuanzhou offered him. But Jiang Cheng refused to see Yuanzhou, using illness as an excuse. Coincidentally, Xiaomin knew Jiang Cheng and was on good terms with him, so she acted as the go-between and brought Jiang Cheng and Yuanzhou together. Jiang Cheng showed up, but he clearly stated that he had no confidence in Yuanzhou. Yuanzhou asked him, "You have no confidence in me, but what about the C family?" While they were having this conversation, Yunyan was on her way to the exhibition. Yuanzhou told Jiang Cheng, Yunyan's purpose in attending the exhibition this time is to discuss the contract renewal with Mr. C. At first, Jiang Cheng didn't believe it, but when he heard that Si Tingyuan had spent nearly 2 hours with Yunyan, he began to waver. Yuanzhou struck while the iron was hot, and Jiang Cheng became hesitant. Then, Yuanzhou got straight to the point, laying out the relationship between Jiang Cheng and the Yu family. It was a synergistic effect where 1 + 1 was greater than 2. If either left the other, both would have their wings clipped. This was indeed the crucial point. After that, Jiang Cheng took the initiative to call Yuanzhou and inform him that he was willing to renew the contract. Before Si Tingyuan asked to meet, Yunyan had figured out his true purpose for seeing her. She contacted Yuanzhou and told him that it was imperative to get Jiang Cheng's contract signed that day, before dinner. The deadline was tight and the task was important. The signing was earlier than what Yuanzhou and Jiang Cheng had previously agreed upon, but fortunately, Yuanzhou handled it with ease. Yunyan said as she ate, "The fact that Si Tingyuan cares so much about the team means he's more than likely planning to renew the contract. But he's a cautious man, so he'll definitely continue to observe the stability of Jiang Cheng's team during this period." Yuanzhou agreed with her assessment. And Si Tinji still hasn't shown his face. "I'm worried he'll pull some dirty tricks behind the scenes. Let him. It's not like the Yu family hasn't been through it before." Yunyan was more philosophical about it now. Mainly, the Yu family had nothing left to lose. Being able to sign with the Si family was truly a blessing from heaven, a sign that their fate was not yet sealed. Yuanzhou thought for a moment, then nodded. That was true. There really was nothing to be afraid of anymore. It was like starting over from scratch. Once a person comes to terms with certain things, they become much more relaxed. Yuanzhou leaned back comfortably on the sofa and started opening a bottle of liquor. Seeing this, Yunyan said, "Don't drink. If you drink, we'll have to call a designated driver. I'm not taking you home." The next day, Yuanzhou left early in the morning. When Yunyan got up, she saw a note he had left on the dining table. It said that Mr. Huang, who was transferring the factory, had a morning flight to Bay City, and he had gone to pick him up personally. A small eatery, a 10-minute walk from the residential complex, served breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The couple who ran it were also from the Jiangnan area and cooked authentic Jiangnan cuisine. You couldn't say it was particularly refined, but its strength was in its home-style cooking. For breakfast, the soup dumplings were especially popular. Yunyan really liked the food there. It was clean, hygienic, and had a familiar feel. Sometimes when Xiaomin came to stay with her, she would also go to that shop to eat, saying the owner's cooking was quite similar to her mother's. Then she would tease Yunyan, "You've eaten food made by a private chef since you were little. How would you recognize a home-style flavor? Is your so-called home-style flavor Michelin-starred?" The home cooking Yunyan missed was actually from Xiaomin's house. She had eaten there when she was a child. How to put it? It certainly didn't have as many dishes as the Yu family's, but it just had a different taste from what the chef at home made. Perhaps it was the taste of a mother's cooking. It wasn't that Yunyan's mother never cooked, but her poor health meant she rarely went near the kitchen fumes. Yuanzhou had bought breakfast from that shop, which included soup dumplings, and he had even prepared the dipping sauce for her. He was truly meticulous about every detail. While eating the soup dumplings, Yunyan was thinking about the factory transfer. Yunyan had heard of this Mr. Huang. He was indeed a sincere person, but in the business world, he was unavoidably a bit slick. The reason she knew of him was because he had once pursued Xiaomin, and quite extravagantly at that. "I hope it goes smoothly." Just as she was thinking, the phone rang. The unfamiliar number on the screen looked a bit familiar. The moment the call connected, she remembered who it was. Lao Lu was uncharacteristically hesitant on the phone, a complete contrast to his usual crisp and decisive manner. He said young master, Yin had woken up, but after a private chat with the old madam, his entire state was not good. Yunyan listened on her end of the line. After saying this, Lao Lu didn't continue. Yunyan was completely confused and asked Lao Lu what the doctor had said. The wound is no longer a major issue, just needs medicine applied on schedule. Yunyan's heart finally settled. Thank goodness, no one died. She sighed in relief. It's good that he's okay. Silence on Lao Lu's end. But he didn't seem to intend to end the call. For a moment, she was puzzled. Is there anything else? Miss you. Aren't you coming to the hospital to see him? Lao Lu asked. Yunyan's head throbbed. I don't think it's very appropriate for me to be wandering around in front of young Master Yin. After all, I'm the one who injured him. Miss you. As I just said, young Master Yin is in a very bad mood, and he hasn't eaten anything since he woke up. Yun Yin struggled to swallow a mouthful of soup dumpling. If he's unwell, shouldn't he see a doctor? And can he even eat right after waking up? If he can eat but won't, it means he's not hungry, right? You don't need to force him. Lao Lu sighed. Young Master Yin isn't physically unwell, he's psychologically unwell. In this state, the wound won't heal easily either. Lao Lu, actually the speed of wound healing is mostly related to his skin's healing ability and physical condition. The connection to his psychological state is quite small. Besides, from what she knew of him, his healing ability was quite strong. Lao Lu sighed. Miss you. You just said it yourself that you were the one who injured young Master Yin. Now that he's awake, shouldn't you pay a courtesy visit? Yun Yin thought to herself. If he hadn't thrown me into the sealed kiln, would he have gotten this injury? Isn't this a classic case of him bringing it on himself? It's not that I don't want to go, I just think. Yun Yin stammered. Young Master Yin probably doesn't want to see me. Things were quite unpleasant then. In the end, she just didn't want to go. However, Lao Lu gave her no chance, cutting straight to the point. Miss you. You need to understand one thing. Young Master Yan's wound will heal sooner or later. What happens after it's healed? Miss Yu doesn't think this one stab will mean you'll never see each other again, does she? I've been by young Master Yan's side for many years, so I know him quite well. If Miss Yu doesn't even show her face during his entire recovery, once young Master Yin is better, perhaps. He didn't finish, but Yun Yin understood perfectly. It meant if she didn't suck up to him now, while he was still hospitalized, he would definitely come after her once he was discharged. A tightness spread in Yun Yin's chest. She lost her appetite in an instant, put down her chopsticks, and said, Lao Lu, the Jiang family is at the hospital. How can I go? If they run into me, what identity should I appear with? These were indeed practical problems, but in Lao Lu's eyes, they were just excuses. He said, let me put it this way, Miss Yu. Unless you can make a clean break with young Master Yin right now, you'd better go see him. After the call ended, Yun Yin's heart was a jumbled mess. Even her favorite food no longer tasted good. A little after 3 in the afternoon, Yun Yin arrived at the hospital. She wished the distance from the hospital entrance to the ward was 100,000 miles. But no matter how big a hospital was, she eventually reached it. Jiang Yinyan's status was special, so the standard of his hospitalization was different. The floor he was on had very strict security. Yun Yin was hoping to find an excuse to leave, like not being able to get in, but Lao Lu was already waiting respectfully at the entrance. Upon seeing Yun Yin, he told the security guards she was here to visit young Master Yin, and that young Master Yin had approved. The guards let her pass without any trouble. Yun Yin looked at the polished, seemingly endless corridor ahead, her head feeling dizzy. Jiang Yinyan had a private room. The hospital environment was already excellent, so a private room was even more so. The rooms were spaced very far apart, and each room had its own dedicated team of doctors and nurses. There were no nurses or orderlies in Jiang Yinyan's room, not even bodyguards at the door. When Yinyan entered, he was reading a finance magazine. He was wearing a light-colored hospital gown, his face pale and bloodless, making him seem less aggressive than usual. He even seemed quite amiable. Seeing Yinyan, he was clearly taken aback for a moment and asked, "Why are you here?" There was none of his usual stern authority, nor any reproach, just simple surprise. His eyes held disbelief, yet also a faint glimmer of light. Yinyan thought, "You think I wanted to come? I wanted to stab you to death then, and I feel the same way now." She took a breath, placed the fruit basket she was holding on the bedside table, and after a long pause said, "I hope you can be discharged soon." Jiang Yinyan glanced at the fruit basket, even more surprised. After a long moment, he said, "Your way of visiting patients is quite traditional. What then? Give you a red envelope?" Jiang Yinyan hadn't expected her to say that. He was stunned for a few seconds, then suddenly laughed. Then he said, "All right." This time, it was Yun Yin's turn to be stunned. Giving a red envelope when visiting a patient. "How much does Miss Yu plan to give?" Jiang Yinyan closed the magazine in his hand and looked at her, seemingly in earnest. Yun Yin came to her senses. Meeting his gaze, she saw a hint of playfulness. She said, "I just came to take a look today. Since young Master Yin is safe and sound, I'm relieved. I have other things to do." "Miss you." Lao Lu, who hadn't left, stood at the door to the inner room and said softly, "Young Master Yin hasn't eaten properly since he woke up. How about you wait until he's finished his meal before you leave?" Yun Yin looked up at Lao Lu. Lao Lu secretly gave her a meaningful look. The meaning was quite obvious. What, wait until he's finished? It was clearly a demand for her to stay with him while he ate. Jiang Yinyan glanced at Lao Lu. Lao Lu lowered his eyes and retreated. The room fell silent. The hospital he was in wasn't noisy to begin with, and his room was next to the garden, a rare, tranquil place. What a pampered man. A single stab wound, and he was living like he was in heaven. What other things do you have to do? Jiang Yinyan suddenly asked. Perhaps it was because of his injury, but he seemed gentler, and even his tone was soft. The question didn't sound like an interrogation, just pure curiosity. Yunyan opened her mouth, and, after a long moment, said, "Nothing particularly important." She had to be kidding herself. She was already here, might as well see it through. It would save her from Jiang Yinyan's retaliation after his discharge, just as Lao Lu had warned. Just because she had met with Si Tingyuan, he could throw her into a sealed kiln. She honestly had no idea what other, more vicious methods he could use against her. "You should eat something. Lao Lu is very worried that you haven't been eating," Yunyan said softly. Jiang Yinyan looked at her without a word. Seeing his silence, Yunyan took it as tacit agreement. She pressed a button on the side phone and ordered some food to be sent in. Jiang Yinyan didn't stop her, and so they waited until Lao Lu personally brought the meal. It was brought in on a food trolley. Yunyan glanced at it and thought, how long is this going to take? Despite his large stature, Lao Lu was quite meticulous. He placed the dishes one by one on a rolling table, and no orderly came in during the entire process. When Yunyan went to help, she asked quietly, and Lao Lu whispered, "Young master, Yin doesn't like strangers getting close." Yunyan said, "Oh." She thought, he really treasures his life. Lao Lu added in a low voice, "Even the doctors are specified to be male. Those young nurses can't get in even if they want to. The doctor changes his dressings personally." Yunyan said, "Oh. What's he being so prim about?" Seeing Lao Lu turn to look at her, she paused for a moment, then said, "Oh. What I mean is Lao Lu's voice dropped even lower. Young master, he doesn't like other women getting close to him." Yunyan chuckled softly. "That's not entirely true, is it? Mo La gets pretty close to him." "That's different," Lao Lu said. "That was true." Yunyan smiled and said nothing. Of course, the situation was different, and the person was different too. After the rolling table was moved to the bedside, Lao Lu withdrew. Knives, forks, and chopsticks were all provided, but Jiang Yinyan didn't lift a hand to use them. Yunyan subconsciously glanced at the time, her mind on Yu Zhuanzhou's meeting with Mr. Huang about the factory, wondering how it was progressing. She was also silently calculating how long it would take Jiang Yinyan to finish all this food. She had eaten with Jiang Yinyan before. He was never one to wolf down his food. On the contrary, he ate in a methodical, unhurried manner. He had eaten like that back at the Yu family home. Back then, all the bodyguards ate quickly, devouring their food, all except for Ian. The Union of that time had also quite liked watching Ian eat. She always felt that the way a person ate best reflected their upbringing, some of which was even innate. She felt that Ian had some of that innate quality in his very bones. "Young Master Yin, would you like to eat something?" Although Yin was anxious, she didn't dare show it too obviously. Jiang Yin lifted his hand slightly, but then let it fall. "The wound hurts." Yin glanced at his chest, but couldn't see the specifics as it was covered by his clothes. She pointed to his other hand. "Try using this one?" Jiang Yin leaned against the headboard, looking at her. Lifting this hand also pulls on the wound. Yin felt a breath catch in her chest. After a long moment, she said, "Then what do you want?" She stood up. "If you don't want to eat, I'll go tell Lao Lu." Then she planned to leave. However, the thought had barely formed when she heard Jiang Yin say lightly, "Can you feed me?" Yin froze, staring at him in astonishment. She was astonished, firstly, because of his request, and secondly, because he had actually used a questioning tone. This was not at all like Jiang Yin. It was very much like the Ian of the past. "Why me?" Yin couldn't help but ask. "Isn't Lao Lu here? You want me to have a grown man feed me? What would people outside think if they saw that?" Jiang Yin's tone was quite serious. It took Yin a long time to reply. "You don't even let outsiders in, so how could anyone outside see?" Jiang Yin leaned back. "No, if you're in a hurry, then you feed me." Yin looked at the table full of food, which was indeed very well balanced. A deep sigh stopped at her lips. Fine, she would feed him. Since she was already here, she might as well see it through to the end. She picked up the spoon and served some soup first. The person who had prepared the meal was extremely meticulous. The soup was sitting on a warming pad, so it was neither too hot nor too cold, the perfect temperature and texture. She fed him a spoonful of soup. Jiang Yin was quite cooperative, opening his mouth to drink. Yin fed him in silence, and he drank quietly. When the soup was nearly finished, Yin asked what he wanted to eat. He didn't have any requests, just said softly, "It's up to you." In that case, Yin had no more reservations and fed him a bit of everything. After a short while, Jiang Yin said, "Let's discuss something." Now that was a surprise, like the sun rising in the west. Yunyan looked up at him. She hadn't stabbed him in the head, had she? Jiang Yunyan's gaze fell on her face. His eyes were dark, his tone light. From now on, when you speak to me, you don't need to be so polite. Yunyan's hand paused as she was picking up some food. Jiang Yunyan said softly, "You weren't so polite when you stabbed me." Yunyan lowered her gaze, a flash of resentment in their depths. "I don't think anyone would be polite after being thrown into a sealed kiln, would they?" After she said this, the atmosphere clearly grew much colder. The moment the words were out, Yunyan regretted it. Why did she have to provoke him for no reason? After a long while, she heard Jiang Yunyan say faintly, "I want some soup." Yunyan muttered, "Drinking so much soup, aren't you afraid you'll need the bathroom?" But Jiang Yunyan heard her and chuckled. "If I need to go to the bathroom during this time, you'll have to come with me. Then let's not have any more soup." Yunyan, chopsticks in hand, subtly changed direction, picking only the solid food. Then she sped up her feeding, not waiting for him to swallow one mouthful before offering the next. In short, she just stuffed the food into Jiang Yunyan's mouth. In his haste, he made Jiang Yunyan choke. He struggled to raise a hand, signaling for her to wait, his face and neck flushed from the effort. Seeing this, Yunyan panicked. If he choked to death, wouldn't she be responsible? She thought to quickly get him some water, but then another idea struck her. Right, the soup. Why get water? She brought the entire pot of soup to Jiang Yunyan's lips, coaxing, "Quick, drink some soup to wash it down." Big gulps, that's the only way it'll go down. Jiang Yunyan was forced to swallow several mouthfuls of soup and was nearly choked again. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore and repeatedly called for her to stop. "What's wrong, young Master Yin?" Yunyan put down the soup pot, feigning confusion. She then kindly pulled out a napkin to wipe the soup from the corner of his mouth. "How are you now? Not choking anymore, are you?" Jiang Yunyan glared at her, wanting to frown but managing to hold back. "See, young Master Yin, wasn't I right? Big gulps of soup will wash it down," Yunyan said, about to pick up the pot again. "How about a little more?" "That's enough." Jiang Yunyan stopped her in time. Yunyan looked at him with all sincerity. "Then I'll continue feeding you. It would be a waste not to eat all this food." "No need," Jiang Yunyan said, his voice strained. "That won't do. Old Lu said you never eat properly. How can you recover like this?" Yunyan said in an earnest tone. Jiang Yunyan narrowed his eyes at her. "I said no need." Yunyan said, "Oh," then let out a heavy sigh. "It seems I'm not very good at waiting on people." She glanced at Jiang Yunyan's chest, then pulled out several tissues and rose to her feet. "Look how clumsy I am." In her haste to make him drink the soup, some of it had spilled onto his hospital gown. To her credit, Yunyan was careful as she wiped, trying her best to avoid the area of his wound. Jiang Yunyan remained silent, simply watching her with his thin lips slightly pursed. With a small glance up, Yunyan could see his jawline. It had to be said, the curve was incredibly sexy and perfect, connecting to a long neck and a prominent Adam's apple, exuding a mix of asceticism and potent sexual tension. Feeling a little flustered under his gaze, Yunyan decided to stop. While her recent actions had been satisfying, they were undoubtedly like pulling a tooth from a tiger's mouth. Who knew when the tiger might suddenly snap? Then she would be in for more than she could handle. But just as she was about to pull away, the man seized her wrist. Startled, Yunyan struggled instinctively. But this was an injured man, one who had just been in too much pain to even lift his arm to eat, yet his grip was abnormally strong. Her struggles were futile. Instead, with a single pull from him, she practically fell into his arms. Terrified, she quickly propped one hand on the bed, careful not to press on his wound and give him another reason to blame her. "You're doing this on purpose, aren't you?" Jiang Yunyan tilted his head to look at her, asking with a ghost of a smile. "Of course not." Yunyan's main tactic was to play innocent and deny everything. Her eyes lowered. "I've been waited on my whole life. I'm just no good at serving others." Jiang Yunyan pursed his lips, watching her. They were so close that he could clearly see the fair, delicate skin of her neck and smell the faint, elegant fragrance on her, which somehow also carried a coquettish allure. Jiang Yunyan's eyes darkened shade. He wrapped an arm around her slender waist and pulled her forward. She lost her balance and fell against his chest. Her heart pounded violently. As she tried to get up, she heard the man's low command from above. "Don't move." Not move. Pressed so tightly against him, Yunyan could clearly feel something hard against the inside of her thighs. The outline of something formidable. It was growing more and more vigorous right beneath her. Yunyan wanted to cry, but had no tears. She really shouldn't have provoked him. It was just feeding him, wasn't it? She could have just done it calmly. If he found it boring, he would have let her go. "Young Master Yin, your wound, you should be careful." This position was fatal. Jiang Yunyan turned a deaf ear. His handsome face lowered, and his thin lips brushed down the side of her cheek, lightly touching her small, round earlobe before he took it into his mouth. Yunyan gasped. her heart nearly leaping out of her throat. Don't do this, people outside might see. Didn't you just say it yourself? Jiang Yinyan's sharp nose moved through her hair as he greedily inhaled her scent, his voice muffled and sexy. People outside won't come in so easily. Young Master Yin, you really can't. Yunyin pushed back against his restless hand. But she couldn't stop him. The man's large hand expertly unfastened her clothes and slipped in from the edge. His fingers were strong and slightly cool, his palm warm. A jolt shot through her waist where he touched. Perhaps due to his early experiences and his current fitness regimen, his arms were hard, and so were his hands. She could easily feel the man's strength. Yet, when that strength brushed against the soft skin of her waist, it could also become gentle, a touch that could hook a person, hooking them all the way to their soul. Jiang Yinyan wrapped his arm around her waist and lifted her slightly, bringing her face almost level with his. Looking at each other from so close, Yunyin could see the desire in his eyes, deep, roiling like a turbulent sea, all of it suppressed beneath slightly lowered lids. He raised a hand to cup the back of her head and pressed forward, his thin lips covering hers. Yunyin's mind went blank with a buzz. She tried to dodge, but there was no escape. His grip was strong. While she was struggling in repulsion, he pushed his way in. At first, it was just a gentle, lingering kiss, but gradually he seemed to lose control, almost gnawing at her lips. The man's breathing grew rougher, his hands more audacious. His desire was blatant, completely undisguised. Even under the thin blanket, the outline between the man's legs was obvious. He was full of vigor. Yunyin was truly terrified of Jiang Yinyan's lust. With a great push, she finally shoved him away, but not without aggravating his wound. He frowned and let out a muffled grunt, then lifted his eyes to stare at her. The depths of his eyes still held unsated passion, fierce and greedy, just like a predator staring at its prey. Yunyin was genuinely afraid he would charge at her recklessly, grab her, and throw her onto the bed. Judging by the way he looked like he wanted to swallow her whole, it wasn't an impossibility. A blush still stained her face, and the warmth of his hand lingered on her waist.